Sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports Dudes here live with a special guest, my man PostGame of the PostGame86 podcast, ready to do a review of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish's 2025 football season. How you doing this afternoon, PostGame?
I'm doing well, Rob. How about yourself? Of course, I'll be doing a lot better if Notre Dame was in the playoffs, but here we are, man.
I feel your pain, my man. I feel your pain. I really felt like Notre Dame should have been in the college football playoffs along with my Texas Longhorns. I really do believe they were much better teams than Alabama and then bum ass Sooners for sure. So I feel your pain as well. It's too late for that now, so we got to get ready for what's going to come up with this Final Four. But I wanted to have you on so I can get your perspective on everything that happened in the 2025 season. Of course, we did a preview at the beginning before the season started, and we got your views and your thoughts on the Notre Dame football team going into the season before they had even one game. So now we're going to see what your thoughts are, hindsight after everything is played out, and get your thoughts and your perspectives on everything that took place this season for them. So I hope you're ready for a lot of really, really heavy questions. And I know you're going to have some very, very, very good answers for us. And I know the fans out there who are watching, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, because I'm telling you now, some of these answers are going to be so awesome. Let's go ahead and get right on into it. The Irish started the season 0-2. What were your emotions at that point of the season?
Uh, just a lot of disappointment because if you looked at the schedule coming into the season, you just knew like the Irish have to at least split those first two games. Probably, not probably, but our two toughest opponents come into the season being Miami and Texas A&M. You just knew for the Irish to have a successful season and for them to dictate their season on their own terms, they needed to be 1-1 in those games. They fell short, close, great games, but they fell short. They couldn't get the job done, and it was very disappointing because it seems like Notre Dame under Marcus Freeman, which I love Marcus Freeman. I hope Marcus Freeman is at Notre Dame until I'm 60, but I know that probably won't happen. But I can hope, right? But under Marcus Freeman, he tends to start the season off slow, and then they get progressively better throughout the season. And by the time the end of the season starts or comes our way, Notre Dame is looking like a juggernaut. But the early season has been really disappointing for the Fighting Irish.
Yeah. What were some of your concerns about them, about the way they were playing after that 0-2 start?
Uh, well, after starting 0-2, the biggest thing was the defense. Uh, them going to Chris Ash as the new defensive coordinator. You knew they were probably, need a little time to adjust, and they needed time to adjust, but it cost them probably the playoffs and undefeated season, in my opinion. The defense was a really big disappointment in those first few games of the season. I felt like they put they put too much on CJ Carr, but they were too restrictive of CJ Carr. They didn't go out. It's almost like they didn't trust him to make the correct plays, even though that's who they felt like their starting quarterback was. If you look at the Miami game, you've seen a lot of RPO, a lot of screen passes instead of just letting him play and let it rip. I felt like they didn't feed Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price the football like they should have against that Miami team. So I think in the end that ended up costing them those first two games. Not so much as the Texas A&M game. Texas A&M game was more on the defense. I felt like the Miami game, both offense and defense were issues for Notre Dame.
Yeah. Were there any bright spots that gave you hope that they could turn it around after that 0-2 start?
Yeah, absolutely. It was the fact that I knew this team was extremely talented. Jeremiah Love, Larry Moore, guys like that, and I knew it was only a matter of time before they find that niche and turn it around because I knew what they were doing like to open the season and that's they started off 0-2. It wasn't a talent issue. It was them adjusting to Chris Ash and being ready to play. Again, that's something Marcus Freeman has to figure out because Notre Dame being independent has to damn near be perfect for them to get in the college football playoff. We don't have or Notre Dame doesn't have a conference championship game to fall back on if they slip up in the season. Notre Dame has to be pretty much perfect. So I don't think it was a talent issue at all. I think most people who aren't biased would agree that Notre Dame had one of the most talented rosters in college football this season. It was the Chris Ash thing, and I think he eventually turned it around and got things going, and they were playing defense how me and myself and other Irish fans expected that defense to look as the season went on, but definitely not a talent issue. I think it was just coaching.
Yeah, during the offseason, Notre Dame had one of the most tuned into quarterback battles in college football during fall camp between
Yeah.
CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey. How did you feel about CJ Carr winning the starting job at quarterback? And were there any second, like you have any second thoughts about, man, should they have went with Minchie over Carr?
Yeah, well, I feel good about the CJ Carr decision. Uh, I think the decision was based on long term. I think CJ Carr was the long term play. We got a homegrown quarterback, and Kenny Minchie would have been too, but you had a tough choice to make. But I felt like the CJ Carr pick was the long term pick because I felt like if they would have went with Kenny Minchie, Notre Dame would have started 2-0 as opposed to 0-2. But you pick the guy with the higher upside in CJ Carr, let him develop into the quarterback you think he can be, and just roll with him. That was a long term pick. Let's pick one of these guys. Let's let one of these guys lead the team for years to come. And I thought that they moved the younger guy in CJ Carr, although Kenny Minchie had been there longer. A lot of reports coming out of campus that Kenny Minchie was going to win the job. He's a really good quarterback in his own right. But I felt like Marcus Freeman went with the higher upside, the long term answer. A guy we can attract other wide receivers from the portal to play with. Hey, come play with CJ Carr. I'm not saying you couldn't have done the same with Kenny Minchie, but I just think CJ Carr's upside is a little bit higher. So at the time, I felt like let's go with Kenny Minchie. He brings more to the table as far as his legs are concerned. CJ Carr can move around a little bit, but Kenny Minchie is, I think, a little bit more dynamic when it comes to running the ball. And I felt like Kenny Minchie, he he would fit Coach Mike Denbrock's offense a little bit better, seeing as though Coach Denbrock likes quarterbacks who can move a little bit more. But I think at the end of the day, all in all, they made the best decision they could make. And I think CJ Carr is going to be a monster and he'll be a Heisman candidate next season.
Yeah. Let's see if we could get Melissa in here real quick. So let's welcome my home girl, the woman I love to talk sports with every morning, early in the morning when we get to work, my homegirl, Melissa Graham. How are you feeling this afternoon, Miss Graham?
I'm here. I'm here.
Good to see you. Good to see you. We've already talked a little bit about Notre Dame and what happened early in the season, but I want to get your thoughts before we go to any more questions. Y'all started the season 0 and 2. What
Yep.
was your emotions like at that point, starting the season 0 and 2, losing to really two really good football teams in Miami and Texas A&M? What was your emotions at that point?
Well, I think, I had planned to be at least 7 games in South Bend this year, and I didn't go to any because I hold grudges. Uh, I'm still mad about Northern Illinois, and that was a year ago. But, losing to two playoff teams, eventual playoff teams, by a total of 4 or 5 points with a true freshman quarterback. He didn't take a snap with Riley or with Sam there. And so, having a veteran line, I think really helped as well. And then God love our backfield of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price and just what they could do, going on a 10-game tear after those first two losses. I mean, did it suck? Yeah. But I think our line did a lot of improving those first 2 games. Our CJ did a great job learning from some tendencies that Texas A&M called out on film that got back to our coaching staff about the way his feet were lined up prior to the snap, whether it was going to be a run or a pass play. So that's something that it helped us out. I was not on the Chris Ash bandwagon for defensive coordinator at all the entire season. I still think I've got some things he needs to prove to me. We're losing some guys in the portal right now, and I'm not sure who we're getting in. I do know that they just gave Al Washington a promotion from D-line coach to the linebackers, which is huge. That's what he played. That's what he coached at Ohio State before he came over with Freeman. And so, that's kind of his background. And so, starting off 0-2 clearly wasn't ideal, but a lot of people forget that we're a year out from playing in the national championship game. And we beat a Georgia team and a Penn State team and an Indiana team who came out of nowhere last year under Signetti to get to that championship game. So all the pieces and puzzles were there. Unfortunately, we took those 2 early season L's, and it ended up biting us in the butt. It shouldn't have. I still, to this day, you and I have texted all week watching bowl games, which I just started watching. I've been on an ESPN SEC boycott. They're not getting my Nielsen rating numbers, not off my information. But you can't tell me that we would not have beaten Texas Tech, that we would not have beaten Oklahoma or Alabama or, in a playoff situation. Like, give us a home game in that first week and let us see where we're at. We won 10 games. A lot of people are talking about strength of schedule and we didn't play anybody. Listen, you and I have had this conversation a ton at 7:15 in the morning of our school. Each conference has about 2 to 3 top level teams, and then it drops off from there. So I'm so sick and tired of hearing to get in the conference. You should be in a conference. Look at the SEC. They're 1 in 100 in bowl games this season already. I mean, Alabama just took a butt whooping. Whew.
Yeah.
That was sad and embarrassing. And I almost felt bad for him. Like, my heart was starting to break just a bit. And then I remembered that I didn't feel bad for them at all, actually. I thought it was hilarious. And so, coming into a conference, like, that's whatever. Our schedule's built. We got rid of USC because they're afraid of us and don't need a big game because, and I quote, we have Wisconsin on our schedule too. Not the Badgers. They went 7-5 this year, 6-6. So I mean, again, you're trying to replace us with a Wisconsin team when we've been 11-1, 10-2, 9-3 the past 3 years with a brand new head coach. And so picking up BYU, I think, will be big for us. Unfortunately, schedules are set years in advance for us, and we hated to lose USC. They'll be back. They'll want us. They'll need our numbers. They'll need us for another decent game. But we're not out there scheduling 4 or 5 MAC teams to play it, preseason before we get to our regular schedule, or what would be considered a um, conference schedule. So we're out there playing who we can get and the best of who we can get. And I think we've got Texas coming up. We've got on a home and home. We've got BYU on a home and home. I think Bama's on the horizon. Clemson, I don't really know how they think about that anymore. I don't know what's going on down there with Dabo and Clemson, but that's another typically a big game that we can get in. And so unfortunately we're stuck playing those 5 to 6 ACC games, which depends on the year and how they're doing in their conference as well. But I've heard nothing but, oh, you should be in a conference, and oh, you guys are down bad. I've heard it from Michigan fans, which is hilarious to me because I'm like, come on, folks, let's be real. And with all the coaching changes and things like that, so it'll be interesting to see, what the years to come look like with our schedule. But this year, we lost those 2 games, and it hurt, and it turned around to bite us in the butt. But I think a lot of people are understanding now that, crap, they were the real deal, and they really maybe should have been in that playoff situation by the end of the year. And we're bringing in guys again. We're in the portal already. I'm hearing Nick Marsh is coming to visit the beginning of the week. He'll be there for 2 full days. I think his schedule said he was at Southern Cal for 1 day and Indiana for another day, maybe Penn State for a day. I'm hearing we've got some defensive guys coming in from the portal on visits and things like that. I know that the Biles kid from Pitt is in the portal. We'd really like to get our hands on him. I feel like that's my personal request, is to get another DB in there that we can get to rotate with ours, because Drake Bowen just said he's coming back for his senior year, but we've lost some defensive guys. And so we've got to kind of really pull up with that and get some numbers going on that. But who knows what next year will bring. Unfortunately, I've kind of turned off my football stuff for the year, and I'm focused on basketball. But August will be here before you know it. The spring game will be here before you know it, and we'll figure out what we're doing from there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I saw you mentioned about those 2 dynamic running backs y'all have. How do you both feel about the success that y'all had this season with those 2 guys, and what skill sets stood out to y'all about both of those running backs? You can go first on this one, Post, and then we'll go to Melissa.
Well, it's great to be on with you, Melissa. I'll be surrounded by all these other teams. It's a great feeling to be on with an Irish fan. So
Oh yeah.
that's what's up. Jeremiah Love, just a freakish, once in a generation athlete, man, at the running back position. Here's a guy who has great vision, great balance, home run speed. He's strong. He has a high IQ. Jeremiah Love is a generational talent, and it's a darn shame that we were robbed of seeing him in the college football playoffs. Along with Jadarian Price, man, he has a lot of those qualities. He's not as he doesn't have quite the home run speed as Love, but he makes up for it with his vision, his strength, his balance. Just 2 all-world running backs for the University of Notre Dame, and I'm sad to see them go because I believe if y'all can recall last season, Jeremiah Love wasn't 100% in the playoffs, and he still made it to the national championship game. I just wanted him to have another crack at it, being fully healthy, and we would have seen you know, what that would have equaled out to. But Notre Dame wasn't given that chance. But the running backs, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, Jadarian being more of the slasher, Jeremiah Love being the versatile back who can kind of do it all. Just 2 elite prospects. And we know that because Mel Kiper has them 1 and 2, according to his running back rankings in the NFL draft. So they'll be sorely missed. And I hate the way their careers ended at the University of Notre Dame. They should be playing in the playoffs.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on those 2 guys, Melissa?
I love them to death, and I agree that you know they should still be playing. They should have had that chance. Without Jeremiah Love playing at whatever percentage he was playing last year against Penn State, that 4th and 1 conversion does not happen. I mean, he willed himself with 5 Penn State guys on top of him and just got that first down for us to continue to go. And then, some theatrics at the end of the game there. But Jeremiah, in my opinion, is more of our bruiser. He's going to run between those tackles. He takes 2 or 3 guys to get down. He's low to the ground when he runs, and he's hard to bring down. Um, and he's going to get those yards after tackles as well. Somebody called him Yak the other day, and I'm like, let's not call him Yak. That's kind of weird. But Jadarian, I think he's our flashy runner. Like he wants to bounce outside. He wants to hit that cut and get to the sideline and stare you down when he's running down the sideline. Like come and get me. And that's just kind of the flashiness that he brings, which I think really kind of benefited both backs. You could really tell on the sideline, like it wasn't a battle of who was RB1, who was RB2. They knew they were going to get their carries. They knew they were going to get their yards. They had fun with each other on the sidelines, celebrating with each other after big runs or scores and things like that. And I think that's to their character a lot, as well as that they were playing for a university that they loved, a team that they loved, and a position that they loved, and they loved each other. And so I feel like that really just poses what Notre Dame football has become the past few years. We don't speak about the previous coach. At least I don't, because I was never a fan. Personally, he got us some wins, but look at where he's at now, making all that money sitting at home. And I think a lot of people don't know that we have Aeneas Williams, who's ready to step up next year as our running back one, and he will absolutely be our running back one. I think he was injured a lot this year, which kind of hurt his numbers, but we didn't really need to call on him. He was our 3rd down back last year that would come in for short yardage stuff, and a very strong runner as well. It's kind of a mixture of Jeremiah and Jadarian, I feel like, but he's had some numbers. He was playing in the big games last year too. This year he got to kind of heal, I think, which was good. I don't know much about our young guys coming in, our freshmen or redshirt sophomores or things like that, as far as our running backs, because we didn't get to see a lot of them this year because we didn't need to use them. And so, we're going to miss them. I think college football is going to miss them, and whoever gets them in the league is going to be blessed to have somebody who can just get the ball and do what they need to do with it.
Sure, for sure. Did y'all see enough out of y'all's wide receivers this past season?
I think we did well in the portal in that area, and I just saw that Faison is not playing lacrosse this year, which he was, came into Notre Dame on a lacrosse scholarship, an amazing lacrosse player. Gave up his lacrosse scholarship and took a football scholarship, but he's not playing lacrosse his senior year. He's just focusing on football, which I think will be helpful to him. He was really great with some catches, had some really great catches this year. I think this year, Will Paulding really stepped up for us, and I think he's got one more year. I might be wrong, but he's been a big target for CJ. If we can get Marsh from Michigan State, I think that's a huge transfer that we can get. That's a fantastic wide receiver. We're tight end you. Our tight ends are going to be in there as well and catching some of those passes and being out there and blocking. And I think a lot of people have not really looked a lot at Eli Raridan this year, but he had a hell of a season as our tight ends and really opened up that path for our wide receivers to have good years as well. I feel like, so.
Yeah, I thought I saw what I wanted to see out of the wide receiver room this season. Uh, I remember being on with you guys in the summer, and FanDuel Zay, one take Zay, was asking about Malachi Fields, and I was telling him, listen, it's not a guarantee that Gray House leads this room at receiving because I knew Malachi Fields transferring over from Virginia was going to be an absolute stud.
Mhm.
And that's what he was. I mean, Gray House is a stud too, but he was hurt a lot this season. So I believe they threw the red shirt on him so they can preserve another year of action for him. Uh, Faison, man, Jordan Faison. You mentioned him not playing lacrosse this year. He gonna be an absolute stud moving forward, also. So I know it's kind of tough to have 1,000 yard receiver when you got such impactful running backs like that at Notre Dame. But the key difference is now we have a quarterback who can sling it however you want it, baby. Uh, I don't know how that just sounded, but he
Yes,
can pass the ball. He can pass the ball. He can. CJ Carr is the quarterback we've been waiting on, and the wide receiver room is very talented. I think Melissa mentioned Nick Marsh from Michigan State. If Notre Dame can grab him out the portal, that would only be the icing on the cake.
Mhm.
I still think there'll be a balanced team. Melissa mentioned Aeneas Williams, along with a few other of those young quarterback or running backs in that room, a very elite, talented running back room. I think they'll be fine in that area. You'll never see Notre Dame be a air raid type offense, but some balance definitely. I think they'll lean a little bit more into the passing game just because we have CJ Carr with a year under his belt, and he'll probably be a Heisman candidate. But that wide receiver room is fine, man. It's really talented. They add Nick March again. That's just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you kind of nailed it too when you mentioned CJ. There's clips going around. Kenny Minchie is supposedly going to Nebraska out of the portal, which is, I couldn't be happier for him. He was QB2, and there's a lot of clips going around from the Here Come the Irish that Peacock posted, and seeing Marcus tell Kenny that we're going with CJ, and just the emotion with the way that he stuck behind Riley, he stuck behind Sam when Sam was there and was with um, CJ this year. Like, he's going to do well wherever he is, and we can't be happier for him. He gave us 3 years of backing up quarterbacks, where he could have really gone and started at any other program, I feel like. So, props to Kenny as well. But, CJ kind of also realizing that, he can take off and run sometimes too. He doesn't have to stay in the pocket, really opened up things, which I feel like if you've been watching the games this past week, quarterbacks are staying in that pocket and not getting rid of the ball or not taking off and running, and it's costing some games. So kind of having a quarterback that is open to, putting himself out there a little bit too, it is just going to continue to benefit us as well.
Yeah, I agree. You both mentioned Chris Ash early in this interview. Let's talk a little bit about him and
Why?
how much was his defense keeping you up at night, and what were the issues in the beginning of the season that you saw about his style of defense early in the season?
He was set up with the best defense in the country when Al Golden left. Nothing needed to change. We just needed to come back in like it was the week after our loss to Ohio State in the championship game. In those first 2 games, I really just felt like he was trying to put his own spin on things, and it looked as if our boys had no idea where they were supposed to line up, who they were supposed to, who were they matching up with. Coverages were just off, and it wasn't working. And so for weeks, I was on the fire Chris Ash bandwagon. For weeks, I mean, like late into the season, it took a long time for me to be like, all right, maybe this dude does know a little bit more than me about defense. But I just was not impressed with stuff until probably midway through the season to late to the season. I just felt like our guy, and we had the talent. That was what was so frustrating too, is our guys they wanted to hit people. They wanted to blitz. We didn't blitz, I think, but a handful of times the first 5 games of the season, it felt like, and it was just kind of like, that was our defense the past couple of years, was getting somebody to the quarterback. We've got great DNs. We've got great pass rushers. Our DBs are just looking, again, to just lay a kid out somewhere, and it was kind of like we kind of just went soft. And that, to me, is not Notre Dame football, and that was infuriating. Um, And I was not thrilled with that at all. Um, Again, I got over it a little bit, towards the later end of the season. Things were kind of going a little bit more. We did have a lot of injuries in our defense this year. I do understand that as well, but we were so deep in so many of those key positions except that safety position. And so, it was next man up kind of mentality, but it wasn't feeling like things were meshing. And I don't know if that's from the DC to the positional coaches to the players. Was there, just something going on? That was there a trust something happening that, that relationship just wasn't there like it had been with Al Golden the years before. So we got there eventually, I feel like, but it took me a while to be even remotely okay with Chris Ash calling our defense.
Yeah. Great points. The thing I saw like across social media was, as the season went on, is that Notre Dame fans need to apologize to Chris Ash. No, we don't.
Nope.
He's a big reason why we started 0-2. So yeah, you finally got it together, but yet and still we still started 0-2 and it eventually cost us the playoffs. But I would say early on, the way the roster at Notre Dame is built on defense is for the defense to be aggressive, not to sit back in the zone.
Mm-mm.
I think he was playing too much zone early on, and the kids, the young athletes were trying to adjust to that. You parlay that with some injuries, some key injuries in the secondary. Devontae Smith being one of those guys at the nickel cornerback position.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think you know, that aggressive style that Marcus Freeman likes to play, he kind of abandoned that early on. And then another thing, we getting torched by Malachi Tony. Why does it take you so long to switch Leonard Moore, your best cover corner,
Mm-hmm.
move him into the slot so he can cover their best offensive weapon? I just think uh, they weren't ready. I don't think they were ready to play early on. I think maybe Chris Ash had the defensive guys a little confused, trying to learn different things instead of sticking to what worked and then slowly, giving them different pieces of your defense as the season went on. But I felt like they should have kept their man coverage principles, let those linebackers and safeties be aggressive, which gave them so much success last season. So a little bit too much zone coverage for Notre Dame's defense early on.
What do y'all help? What do y'all think helped turn that defense around later on in the season? About midway through the season, it was really clicking. What do you think helped turn that around?
Exactly that. Uh, Playing more of a man. When you got corners like Leonard Moore, uh, what's the corner opposite of Leonard Moore? He slips my mind right now.
The true
Alyssa.
freshman.
No, 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 no. The guy who had the big interception against Penn State to that game. I don't know why his name slips my mind.
I can see
But
it, but I can't think of it right now either.
uh, so when you got corners like Leonard Moore and our other starting corner, right? You don't let them man up, man. Uh, Let them go man to man. They're going to do a great job against receivers man to man. They don't need to be sitting down in zones, man. I'm telling you right now, that's what cost Notre Dame a lot early.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like trying to do too many different things, a lot of zone coverage and previous DCs, even before Al Golden, it's been a man to man defense, because we have that talent and speed in, in our secondary. And so sitting back, sitting in soft coverage, like you said, Malachi Tony just tearing us up, um, and nobody figuring out how to stop it, I think was frustrating. I think Freeman was frustrated with it. um, but being the head coach and the guy that he is, I'm not going to push blame. I'm going to take blame, especially being a defensive minded guy. Um, but I think, Marcus kind of got in his ear and said, listen, this is Notre Dame. This is what we do. Fix it. or I can possibly see him taking over the calls or giving a co-defensive coordinator position to Mike Mickens, who I thought maybe should have been the coordinator to begin with.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, I kind of lost your as I was trying to think of the quarter's name. I kind of lost your question, Rob. My bad. But I think what turned it around, and I don't think Marcus Freeman would ever say this publicly, but I think he got in that defensive room. Okay, this is not how Notre Dame plays defense. This is how we're going to play defense. And then you start to see the defense round into shape probably after the Purdue game. Probably, I would say the second half of the Purdue game on, they look like a totally different defense. If you looked at our summer preview of the team, like that's the defense you started to see. Aggressive pass rushing, aggressive blitzing, hitting, hurting people, lock up man coverage. That's the Notre Dame defense we started to see as the season went on and they ran off 10 straight by an average of 30 points.
Yeah, I think that Arkansas game too was really a page turner in our defense as well. I can't picture the schedule in front of me. I don't know if that was before Purdue or after Purdue, but I feel like that game where we really put on a show offensively, but also defensively. I mean, that game was one that we had scheduled, we had circled on our calendar. Like this could really be a trap game coming in off of, you know, A&M, Miami. Then we had that bye week, and then we had a kind of a simpler game. We thought Boise State was going to be something that wasn't there this year, but Arkansas really going in. And if you look at Arkansas' schedule, nobody beat Arkansas, even in that mighty, mighty conference of the SEC, like Notre Dame beat Arkansas. So I feel like our defense really kind of stepped up that game as well. But I do agree. I think Marcus got in that defensive room and said, listen, if you want to see my field, this is what's going to happen. Because a lot of the fundamentals weren't even there at the beginning of the year. They were missing a lot of silly stuff. Angles were bad. Tackling was bad. Just timing in general was bad. And so I think he kind of got back to this is Notre Dame, hit somebody. You know what I mean? Like form tackling. Just getting back to the fundamentals, I think, was key.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Who would y'all give y'all's offensive and defensive MVPs to from this past season for those Notre Dame players?
It's pretty easy for me. On defense, I'll go Leonard Moore. Unanimous first team All American. On offense, I'll go Jeremiah Love. Unanimous, unanimous first team All American. So for me, pretty easy picks, seeing as though they unanimous first team All American.
Yeah, I'd probably go the same with a close second on offense being CJ. And maybe even our O-line. Our O-line this year was solid, moving some people around, losing our starting center, who just beat Alabama yesterday and won the MVP of the Rose Bowl, Pat Coogan. And he came off the bench last year because our center was injured. And, being able to move I think our big guys around on the line to different positions with injuries, we didn't miss a beat offensively in that situation, I think, which really helped pave the road for Jeremiah to be able to just go and do his job and for CJ to be able to do his job. And then I don't think Drake gets enough credit as being the green dot for the defense and the DBs. But once our defense got cracking and got going, I think he did a really good job of constantly having everybody where they needed to be and kind of that captain on the field for our defense that struggled a lot of the year. So that would kind of be like my top two choices.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the injuries on the offensive line because along with those that you named, Billy Scrout missed some time. Charles Jagasaw with a freak accident before the season started and played one down. And Charles Jagasaw is easily Notre Dame's best offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know earlier post game you had mentioned that the Titans should probably get Bain from Miami for their defense. I would prefer Leonard Moore. We need a lockdown corner, bro, that can keep wide receivers for receiving for 100+ yards a game, 2 tutties on us. That's what we need. But
There's
I
only
like
one
Bain
problem.
too.
There's only one problem with that, bro. Leonard Moore not draft eligible.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, we
Oh man, wow. Well, we got another year to wait then, but we need to get him. That's for sure. Now, y'all already know there was a lot of controversy, mixed feelings, all kinds of things about Notre Dame not making the 12-team playoff, not accepting a bowl bid, the whole nine. Give me your case for why Notre Dame should have made the 12-team playoffs and why you feel like it was okay for them not to go to a bowl game.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Melissa. Oh, you want me to go? I I think if you look at the computers had Notre Dame safely in. I believe they're above Alabama. I'm not sure. I want to say they were above Oklahoma. If you just went by the computer rankings, the biggest travesty in that whole ordeal was the week before Notre Dame crushing Stanford, Alabama barely beating Auburn, and Alabama jumping Notre Dame. That right there should have been a signal that Notre Dame was going to get screwed. I don't have a pro. People think, Notre Dame fans have a problem with Miami getting in. I don't have an issue with Miami. Never had an issue with Miami getting in. But what I did have an issue with was them, excuse my language, pissing on our heads and telling us it's raining.
I
That's
said
the
much
issue.
worse than that, so you're fine.
That's the issue I had. There was no reason on earth for Alabama to jump Notre Dame. And we see what eventually happened to Alabama. But I think Notre Dame, if you just went eye test and you looked at the BCS rankings, which are still floating out there, uh, Notre Dame eventually rounded into shape and looked like one of the top, 3 or 4 teams in the country. If the goal is to get the best teams in the country in the playoffs so we can crown a champion, then there's no way Notre Dame should have been left out. Now, them sitting out the bowl game, uh, of course, me selfishly, I wanted to see my team play again, but then I thought about it. I wouldn't see Jeremiah Love anyway. I wouldn't see Jadarian Price anyway. I wouldn't see Malachi Fields. I wouldn't see Eli Raritan. All those guys are getting prepared for the NFL. So I think Notre Dame's mindset was, listen, we want to play for a national championship or nothing. So from what I hear, they let the kids decide, are we going to a bowl game or are we going to sit this one out? They let the kids decide they want to sit it out. We're not going to have our top players anyway. Uh, like I get it, extra practices and all, but nobody's going to tell me that sitting at a bowl game or going to a bowl game is going to dictate your success for next season. So I mean, and then the fact that they got to stick it to ESPN and cost them millions of dollars for sitting out the Pop Tart Bowl, which is funny. You Melissa, you know what's so funny is that all you heard leading up to the bowl games was all your team is going to play in the Pop Tart
Oh, yeah,
Bowl as an insult.
right.
But then Notre Dame says no to the Pop Tart Bowl. Oh, you guys want to take your ball and go. Like, which one is it?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I had no issue with them sitting out. If for nothing else, just to stick it to ESPN one time.
Yeah, I was on my way home from North Carolina on that Sunday and damn near wrecked my car when my phone starts blowing up. I'm getting texts. People are like, they didn't get in. And I'm like, what? I'm like, stop messing. Like, I'm 30 minutes from home. Stop messing with me. And they're like, no, they didn't get in. They put in Oklahoma and Alabama. So I'm on the phone with my dad in hysterics crying because I'm like, they didn't put my boys in. What are we doing? And then I turn into straight anger at the SEC and ESPN because I'm going to be 100% real. It's the SEC and it's ESPN. The committee chair was the athletic director from Baylor who got fired. So Hunter Yurachek, the AD from Arkansas, took over. Well, we beat Arkansas so bad that he had to fire Sam Pittman. I love Sam Pittman. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great coach. I felt bad for him. Sorry, we beat your team by 40. And you know, the SEC and that family, or whatever Brian Kelly said, it family or what, I don't know, but they want to prove that they're the best conference and get so many people in it, and it proved to bite them in the butt this year, and I couldn't be happier. Oklahoma got beat, Alabama got beat, Georgia got beat, so now you're left with Ole Miss. You know, which, whatever, Lane Kiffin's still getting his money from Ole Miss being where they're at in the playoffs right now. Because again, if I'm a coach, I'm going to work for LSU because they're going to pay me for everything. They're just that dumb. You know, a lot of people have been talking to about the stipulation that is in the contract for next year, that if we are ranked in the top 12, we're automatically in. I think that's good for us. I think our AD killed that contract, and every athletic director and everybody at ESPN knew about that before it came out publicly. I don't know why it was hidden. But watching games, you can't tell me that Notre Dame wouldn't have beaten Oklahoma by 40 last week, or that we wouldn't have beaten Alabama by 30 this week, or we wouldn't have beaten Texas Tech, or, you know, I understand James Madison having to be in, and Tulane. And again, I'm not even upset Miami got in. I think they should have been in. I think there was room for both of us in there. I think Alabama getting in was an absolute joke, and they proved that by barely beating Oklahoma for a second time in 3 weeks. And then, you know, Indiana just tear them apart yesterday, which again made my heart so happy. But I think things have to change. Again, I said it when I first got on here. Conferences are a joke. It's all about money. And in the world of NIL, why do we need a conference? If you're going to schedule Kent State, Akron, Miami of Ohio, OU to play your first 4 games, what does it matter if I'm going out there and we're scheduling Clemson, we're scheduling A&M, we're scheduling Texas, we're scheduling Alabama, and we're losing those early season games? Where, you know, strength of schedule doesn't even matter anymore. So looking at overall records and things like that, like, I think you really got to go straight back to the eye test. Like, we needed and deserved another chance at Texas A&M or Miami in one of those playoff games. We would have gone to Miami again. We would have gone to A&M again. It's not a big thing. I think we, again, were robbed of our ability to prove to the committee that, you know, selecting the top teams was their job, and they did that. And they didn't. They failed that tremendously. As far as opting out of the Pop-Tart Bowl, I laughed. I originally thought it would be the Camping World Bowl, the Cheez-It Bowl. But I felt like the Pop-Tart Bowl was just a slap in the face. Mostly because it's before New Year's, just after Christmas on that Saturday. The way that Pop-Tarts has kind of taken over that with the sprinkles on the helmets and on the side. Like, nobody's putting sprinkles on a Notre Dame golden helmet. I promise you that. Marcus Freeman is not taking a big bite or dancing out of a giant Pop-Tart or dancing with a person in a Pop-Tart costume. Kalani Sataki, you did it, dude. You're a big guy. I know you enjoy that blueberry Pop-Tart. I'm happy for you. Marcus Freeman would not be caught dead doing that. Give us a bowl game on New Year's Eve, on New Year's Day. Give us something. The Citrus Bowl, it used to be, you know, something worthwhile. Give us something that's on one of those New Year's 6-day bowl games that used to be, you know, all of that time. Shoot, even put us back in the Tony the Tiger Bowl. At least it's on New Year's Eve day. But I think playing before New Year's Eve was a smack in the face. I think our players felt disrespected by that. And I appreciate that they were given the choice from the staff to say, if you want to play, we'll play. We understand there's going to be a lot of opt-outs. If you don't want to play, we're behind you too. And again, Ron can tell you, I didn't watch a single football game on ESPN until probably, I think I did turn the Pop-Tart Bowl on just to see the score, because I wanted to see what Tech and BYU were doing. But until I was at my dad's house, New Year's Eve day, did I watch my first bowl game on ESPN. So they
Yeah,
lost numbers, they lost money, you know, and that was my big old like to them, because you did this. It's all about you. It's not about the 12 best teams in the country. Uh, and here we are now.
yeah. So let me say real quick, Vance 305 in the chat. Before you come on here with your childish comments, man, Notre Dame is ranked sixth in the country when it comes to beating top ranked teams, I believe since the year 2000. So keep it moving.
I got two more questions for y'all before we wrap up. The
It's a
first
good thing
one
I
is,
can't see chat.
oh, you can't see that?
Uh-uh.
Good, good, good. One of which is what y'all mentioned earlier about joining the conference. Give me your pushback on those who are saying that Notre Dame needs to join a conference. And then my last question for you will be, what's your thoughts on them moving away from the ACC?
Oh, yeah, man, this dude, man. Somebody, is anybody in the chat with a wrench? Smack this dude upside his head with a wrench. Get him out of here. Uh, you call somebody a chump on the internet, man. I can't stand people nowadays. But anyway, uh, it's stupid. Like the to me, the conference thing is stupid. Listen, it's like this because Notre Dame's tried in the past to join conferences. Folks said no. So this is a capitalistic country, right? So let's just say, for example, Melissa and Rob have a business and they in the business of making shoes. And I come to them with my business plan. I want to join y'all in making shoes. Y'all tell me no. Okay. And then I go on my own and start my own shoe business. And it's successful. And then after I become successful, y'all come to me and say, that's not fair. We have to share our profits with each other. You're getting all the profits. You have to join us now. Every time I hear somebody say Notre Dame joined the conference, that's what plays in my head. It's to me, it's an advantage. It's an advantage, and it's harder to stand on your own. And when you're in a conference, you always have the conference to fall back on. Notre Dame is just them, and people are mad, and I will never understand why. They are mad Notre Dame mastered the art of being independent when y'all wouldn't let them in the party to begin with. Imagine telling somebody you wouldn't let them into something and they will on their own and built it, and now you mad at them. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Now, will it come a day where Notre Dame has to join? Maybe, but anytime soon, no. I think the fact that Notre Dame feels like they were played this year, I think they're more bullish on their independence. It's just it's so much people don't know and understand when it comes to Notre Dame's independence. Like part of the reason they're independent is because of bigotry, with them being Catholics. You know, nobody. I bet majority of people saying Notre Dame needs to join the conference doesn't know that Notre Dame ran the KKK out of South Bend. Didn't know that. So, I mean, people just need to get over it. Notre Dame's going to be independent. Uh, y'all kicked them out. Y'all sent them to the y'all sent them to the wolves, and mad that they came back with the heads of the wolves. So I'm bullish on Notre Dame's independence. I hope they continue to stay independent. Uh, they're gonna schedule games all across the country like they've been doing, which helps them with recruitment. Uh, they're super financially stable. Independence in football has a lot to do with that. So I just don't understand, like, for another culture team to comment on Notre Dame's independent. Worry about your situation. You know, I hate pocket watchers. Worry about your situation. Look at Texas Tech. They head coach talking about Notre Dame's independence. and he's supposed to be getting ready for a college football playoff game, and they get destroyed. So, I mean, miss me with it, man.
Yeah, I love that analogy, and I think you kind of just hit that last point on the head there. This entire bowl season, everybody's talking about us. Oh, say something about, oh, Notre Dame should be in Notre. We should be. You're right, but you're talking about us. You're talking about us. You can't leave Notre Dame out of the picture because you're so concerned about what we're doing. Don't worry about us. We're not joining a conference, and a lot of people forget that we're in the ACC and every other sport except football and hockey when we're in the Big Ten. So we're in a conference, just independent in football. And that allows us to, again, open up our schedule to go play across the country and play in all of those big, bad conferences that are so, so good, that are, again, top heavy. The Big Ten. I went to college with Matt Campbell, even greater guy than he is a coach. It's going to take him a few years to get Penn State back to where Penn State needs to be. They're not going to be a top level team in the Big Ten. Michigan, it's going to take Willingham a few years. He's got to, right now, he's recruiting the hell out of Bryce Underwood to get him to stay. I mean, Northwestern's got a brand new coach. Michigan State's got Pat Fitzgerald, where he's going to be, turn that back into a decent program. It's going to take time. We don't have to worry about other people telling us what to do and how to manage our things because we manage it just fine. We are our own brand. We are, a lot of people don't realize too, and I think we talked about this in the summer post game too, and I think you didn't like the game, but I'm a big proponent of keeping Navy on the schedule every year. They bailed
Yeah,
us out. They
yeah,
bailed us out.
hmm
We are
uh,
grateful to have Navy on our
yeah,
schedule. We will help you.
yeah,
USC is going to come crawling back because you know what they need from us? Our numbers and our money. Because we fill up the Coliseum when we're out there. They don't. Ever seen a USC UCLA game? It used to be packed. You can walk in and sit behind the coaches if you want in a game out there now, whether USC is playing or UCLA is playing. You need us in college football to be independent so that we can do what we need to do and make you better and help you out. And I think a lot of people don't see that, and it's frustrating because there was a time we were looking at the Big Ten, and the Big Ten was like, oh no, blah blah blah. Michigan didn't want to play us anymore. And great, we'll pick up an SEC team. We'll pick up another Big Ten team. You know what I mean? Like Purdue's still mad at us because we won't let them bring their big drum in because it doesn't fit through our tunnels. Like, get over yourself. But guess who's playing them every year and beating them by 50? We are. Like, get over it. We're not joining a conference. If we've learned one thing out of this year, it's you all need Notre Dame football to be successful and be involved in the playoff system because you can't shut up about us. That was as nice
well
as
said. Well said. Well said. That was beautiful. Yeah, I agree. As far as Navy goes, Notre Dame play Navy every single year they want to play. Notre Dame owes Navy that, and so anytime Navy wants to play, I'm down for that. But I mean, again, man, Notre Dame. How about these teams worry about them? Notre Dame worries about itself. Put a bone.
Yeah. How do y'all feel about them possibly, or even considering, since what went down with this college football playoffs, and they were sort of like pitting Miami against Notre Dame for that last spot, which I think you both agree that Miami deserved to get in, but Notre Dame deserved to get in as well. Do you think they'll move away from scheduling those 5 games with the ACC in the future?
that's part of the contract. We have to have those 5 games right now, um, as far as I know. And if we're going to play 5 ACC teams, we better play the best. Uh, and unfortunately, that involves Miami. And in my social media world on Twitter and Instagram and just texting people that are Notre Dame fans, nobody's pissed off about Miami. It was Oklahoma and Alabama that really made people upset. Um, and more so Alabama because they had no business being in. Um, so I don't think anything's going to change. If we trying to schedule the best of the best of the ACC is our only worry about that, and it's just 5 games. We get 7 games to pick from other places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. That's a really good point you made, Melissa, because a lot of people don't know is Notre Dame doesn't. They don't get to choose the ACC teams they play. The ACC chooses those teams that Notre Dame plays every year. So as far as as you know, sticking with the ACC, Notre Dame is under contract. I know a lot of Notre Dame fans were pissed and saying that they need to get rid of the ACC and go to another conference. But I don't know if there's another conference that would allow us to schedule that many teams without fully joining. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't see another conference. The Big Ten isn't, because they've wanted us for so long. They want us in all or nothing, and that only benefits the Big Ten, to be honest. I mean, it gives a top 3 to 4 solid teams the entire time, the entire season. um, but not getting to schedule and choose who schedules the ACC games. They thought NC State was going to be a lot better than what they were this year. And they came in and we manhandled them. Miami week 1, I would have loved to have a shot at them, even week 4 or 5, to kind of come back at them, and see where we're at. It just kind of all depends. It's just like in every conference. I mean, nobody thought this year Penn State was going to shit the bed, and they did. Nobody thought that Alabama was going to lose to Florida State, and then Florida State was not going to win a game for the foreseeable future, for what it feels like. I mean, and same with your Longhorns. Like, nobody expected Arch to struggle this much, and they lost a couple of games. So it's a year by year thing. When we can only do the best we can with our schedule, and by doing that, we have to win games, and we lost those first 2 games, and it sucked. And I think we've learned from that, and hopefully next year we come out and instead of going 0-2, we go 2-0.
Yeah, I've always been one who has always said that I think Notre Dame plays the toughest schedule of anybody in college football. We can't get upset with them because the team is down that they schedule. Because when you see the teams on their schedule and you know what those teams' history is, you like, dude, that schedule is off the chain. It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be tough. You just don't know if those teams are gonna be down. But I've said that forever that Notre Dame plays the toughest schedule in college football,
I
barring
think
none.
that Syracuse game had a potential to be really, really decent too, and then Steve Angeli gets hurt. And we struggled in that game. We struggled against BC. And so I think it just kind of it's a day by day, game by game process. Pitt, I will play Pitt every year because it's not a conference game, so it doesn't matter to Pat Narduzzi. So I will beat him by 150 every year. I don't care. But we have the potential to have really decent games that would be considered conference. We're not playing. We're not scheduling teams in November. We're not Alabama playing Mercer. We're not playing um, ridiculous, low level D1 teams or D2 teams in November. We're gearing up for playoffs. That's our main goal.
Yeah. If your last question for y'all, if Notre Dame decided we're going to join a conference, what conference would you two like to see them join?
Oh, that's a good question. I I I think ideally, if you're talking geographics, it would probably be the Big Ten. I know the SEC would be upset with that because that would boost the Big Ten financially as opposed to the SEC. I never want to see Notre Dame join the conference. With that being said, I would like Notre Dame to be independent forever and ever. If I had to pick one, sheesh, man, y'all gotta understand how foreign that is to a Notre Dame football fan. if I'm staying true to, geographics and how I like that conference are geographically made up, then I would have to say the Big Ten. But I mean, I wouldn't mind any of them now that I think about it, but it just makes sense geographically to be in a Big Ten if they had to be in one.
I wouldn't put it past Notre Dame if they were forced to join a conference to create a new one, to bring the top 3 teams from the Big Ten, from the SEC, from the ACC, from the Big 12 together to form a true power conference. I can see Pete, or AD Pete Vacula, I can't say his last name.
People
Really,
walk.
yep, whatever. I can see him kind of the gears turning already if conferences matter that much. And if it comes to that, I can see kind of having discussions about that. We've got the money, we've got the backing to create a new conference, to create it. We went from Power 5 to Power 4. Or aren't we at 4? Are we at 5? I've lost track. Does the Big East count anymore? But again, like we're not. It's just not going to happen. And so it is really hard to determine. But I think financially, I'd say Big Ten or SEC. But I just don't see it happening. I mean, geographically, it doesn't matter now. I mean, you've got Stanford and Cal in the ACC that are literally on the West Coast, and then you've got UCLA traveling farther from UCLA to Rutgers than any other team has to in the country. USC, Washington, and Oregon. It's just, but it's no skin off our nose because we travel those games anyway. We go play on the West Coast. We go play in the South. We go play in the snow. Like, it doesn't matter to us. We're just looking for good teams to play and who want to hit hard and play ball.
Yeah, well, I think we all agree that the Golden Domers is the Golden Goose. Every conference would love to have Notre Dame in their conference. I appreciate y'all joining me today and going through this 2025 season review of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish season. I appreciate y'all. Hopefully, I can catch y'all again. Everybody out there that's watching, make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you hit that notification bell because anytime we're going to go live, you can get notifications that we about to go drop some bombs. And we want you to be there with us so that you can tune in. So I'll see y'all soon. Melissa, I'll see you in a couple of days. This break is winding down. And
I know.
post-game, I'll probably see you tomorrow morning on the next podcast.
Yes, sir. Melissa, you got to join us again for the preview for next season.
Brown's got my number.
I got you for sure. All right, y'all. Have a good one.